Please, Doctor, the session has begun.
Thank you so much for the IYC team back in New York and across the world for a wonderful session that had just concluded this morning. It's very enlightening to see that people are eager to ensure that the vision of the Sustainable Development Goals are accelerated. As we begin to wind down on IYC's summit for this year, IYC has the vision of always including every region in its discussion. So we have an African session here where the emphasis will be how to reconnect the diaspora. But I'm not alone. I'm here with one of our leaders and emerging change makers in the continent. I'll call on our Vice President of the Pan-African Youth Union to introduce herself and then introduce our guest. Thank you and welcome, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Daniel. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, our online audience. My name is Mutes Oliver. I am a leader at the continent. I am the Vice President of the East African region, and I take 15 countries. That's Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and also Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Comoros, Madagascar, and Mauritius. I'm glad to be here, and I'm a graduate of a Master's in Public Administration, and I'm a student of Master's in Gender and Women Studies. I'm glad to have all of you here. Thank you. Should I proceed or?
Yes, thank you for that salutation, our leader. I would immediately begin to give a little bit of housekeeping and how the session will be run since we're running behind time. We have in our midst some of the emerging leaders. In short, seven of the people or 5 of the people on this panel are already influential people in their country. At least I'm aware Dr. Isaac was last year nominated as one of the most influential people in Chad. I'm equally aware that Olivier in her own right too have been recognized. The same for Raquel. So I would want them to give their little bios, but I'll hand over to my co-moderator to share the order in which the bios or the order in which the introduction and initial salutation will be, and then I'll come back to begin the process of interaction. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Daniel. Sorry, I got a cold in the morning. My voice is not so good. I would start with my sister here from the Congo. Introduce yourself, then we go for the online audience.
Hi, everyone. Again, this is an honor to be here. My name is Olive Kabea from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I am a DRC Youth Ambassador, also work as an assistant reporter at the Permanent Mission of Congo to the United Nations. I also am interning at the Maryland Governor's Office as a legal secretary. So I have a bachelor's in legal studies, and in the meantime, I'm dual majoring at Penn State University in international business and finance with a dual minor in French and political science. So advocating about young people really something I started appreciating to do since 2020 when I became a United Nations volunteer. I really love to engage with young people, just talking about the problems that are tackling our communities, especially in Africa. So it really is an honor to be joining this panel today.
Thank you so much. I would invite Rachel Tabitha. Could you please introduce yourself to the audience, and then we proceed to the next speaker. Thank you.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself and to be here today. So my name is Rachel Tabitha, a national youth advocate from Kenya, a bachelor's degree holder in mass communication and journalism, and currently pursuing a degree in law. I'm also among the top 5 influential Kenyans, and also a founder and executive director for a youth organization across the African countries that is called Young African Leaders and Aspirants. Above all, I'm a politician in Kenya and looking forward to a fruitful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you so much, Rachel. Let me invite Dr. Isaka to introduce himself, and then we go for our session.
Well, hi everyone. Thank you, our moderators. First of all, I would like to thank the IYC team or Aunt Hawa for this amazing job she has been doing to promote youth engagement in international global space. I would like also to mention that this is one of the most successful edition of the IYC. Thanks for the online and on-site attendees. This is very interactive participation according to my, previous experience. I would like also to say that this year's topic is very interesting because of the global challenges nowadays we have been facing. So my name is Jose Fisa Khabiblan. As you see, I have been graduated like 2 months ago. I submitted successfully my PhD program. I coordinate the Chad Youth Internet Governance Forum. I also coordinate the United Nations Youth Section of Chad Initiative. I represent my NGO, which has the UN Ecosoc Consultative Institute, we call it ASIET, and I'm also part of the International Organization of Francophonie Development Commission, part of so many international youth constituencies. Thank you very much for inviting.
Thank you so much for that salutation and for welcoming us. My name is Daniel Chidubembuji. I'm one of the co-moderators. I run a non-for-profit based organization here in the US and in about 90 countries. And I also am a clinical research specialist or a global health, public health consultant here in the US, and also advise Liberian government and also design apps that advocate for climate related health issues. So the panel in question is being fueled by the UN Department of Global Communication, precisely the Division for Civil Society. In the last 7 sessions, we realized that it's important that we'll aggregate knowledge and understanding on regional basis, or more precisely on continental basis. So this is one of the sessions that we'll be talking on. It pertains to Africans, especially those in diaspora. So we are very excited that our partners in AFS and our partners within the UN agency, and of course, the government of Sierra Leone, Liberia, and many other of the diplomatic commissions that are working with us and agencies within the UN that are working with us are driving the narrative. This session that we have here has a theme: reconnecting diaspora, celebrating African achievements, and forging sustainable development goals. The central vision for us is to see how those of our communities and our people in Africa who are outside of the continent, for some reason, either due to historical antecedents of slave trade or forced displacement or ethno-religious sentiment or voluntary migrations, that pool of people have expertise, richness, and those pool of people are part of us. So we want to see how we can leverage and get how they've been able to survive and how we can bring it back to motherland to inspire hope and create that accelerating vision for sustainable development goals. In this context that these discussions will also be founded. I'll hand over to my co-moderator to begin the session and ask the series of first leading questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Daniel, for such a powerful introduction for the session. I would like to start with my sister here. When we come to reconnecting with the diaspora, how best can we collaborate the models and strategies that effectively bridge the gap between African diaspora and the African continent?
Oh, well, that's such an interesting question. And I believe, in my opinion, we have to establish sustainable partnership between the African diaspora and the African from the continent, which is really important into promoting the work that we're doing, because we know that African people from the continents don't really have the same opportunities that people from the diaspora have. We're more exposed into sometimes a better educational system with a lot of business opportunities. So if we're trying to put our resources together, our knowledges just to complement each other, that should be like the first way to achieve that goal. But I would love to highlight something that's also important, is that when building this partnership, we have to like have the same mindset, trying to look at each other as partners rather than just in French we say subalterne, like look down on people from the continent because we think they don't have access to XYZ. And this really brings like an idea of paternalism that I've noticed in this partnership that we usually build between the African from the continent diaspora, which is usually when someone is coming from the United States, from other countries that feel like they have a certain power more than people who are from the continent. But if we want to build something stronger and be successful, we need to look into what we're missing, because people from the continent knows what's going on. Usually we have the expectation of what we live here, like we have electricities all the time, we have access to more higher institutions all the time, and we think that if we go back to the continent we can have the same realities, which is not true. So if we're trying to build partnership, looking at each other as equal partners, that can like advance the relationship, to build a stronger Africa and promote our work.
So, how do we make these partnerships instrumental in achieving the sustainable development goals?
Well, that's an interesting question, because establishing the diaspora engagement offices within the African government should be the first thing we look at. Usually, our government have offices that take care of a lot of questions, a lot of things that we need to work on. But as the previous session said, everybody works on a certain SDG goal. That is certain. Like we always like have something to do. We have a business. You talk about gender equality. So I think the way we can make that happen is to start recognizing people who do it on a local level without even, taking publicity and responsibility of what they're doing. Because a lot of people have like their CEOs, they are doing agricultures, they have a lot of ideas they're doing. So if we get started by recognizing everybody that is doing something in the local level, that would be something. But another aspect is promoting agriculture partnership among the African countries to increase renewal production, enhance food security. Like if I say in my country we produce let's say sugarcane, in other countries that produce this, we can try to find a way to build transformative industries in one country and bring together our products in order to promote the SDGs, and that would be food security alleviation, for example. And when it comes to gender equality, let's say if we start establishing a lot of among the young people, young female, giving them the opportunity to speak up, to be part of the, not only part of the implementation, but also part of the building, policies in order to do those changes. That would be like an interesting way to also alleviate that issue. And the other main branch I would say is through education, because all the SDGs we're talking about are good, but they all go through education. A kid that is at home cannot be successful, cannot be aware of the SDGs if they don't go to school. First of all, it's in school that they learn how to become entrepreneurs, how to become independent. So if we strengthen our educational system and start including topics like agriculture, entrepreneurship, to teach our young kids, our young brothers and sisters, that they don't only have to rely on the governments on administrative job, that they do have the power to create their own, way of becoming successful. That can be such a strong way to, empower those SDG goals.
Thank you so much. To you, Dr. Isaka. In the pursuit of the sustainable partnerships, what collaborative models and strategies can we can effectively bridge the gap between the African diaspora and the continent?
Thank you so much for this very interesting question. I think, according to my understanding, no sustainable development goal can be achieved without a very strong partnership. And I mean, for to promote a very inclusive partnership, we need to have all the stakeholders on board. There is no way because someone has to be left behind. And we have to have the government, civil society, youth, I mean, media. We have to have all these vulnerable communities, but we should also have the diaspora, which is a very important stakeholder in the process because we should, I mean, convince the diaspora that they are part of the continent and their contribution is very important, and we can create some sort of formalist, I mean, space to allow them to contribute whether in economic sector, educative sector, whatever anything can benefit the process of the development, I mean, goals achievement.
And how can these partnerships be instrumental to the diaspora and the continent?
Well, I would like to focus more into economic sector. If we today, for instance, I just, I mean, exchanged with a friend of mine who is in Washington, and I was also comparing with people who are living in Paris. So many people say that they would like to invest in Africa in their respective countries, but for instance, they face, I mean, technical issue when they try to transfer money, for instance, to help their cousins or younger brothers to initiate, some sort of small businesses. I mean, banking procedures are very difficult, I mean, to deal with, and the government have to set up, a very formal bilateral relation with the country where they live and the country where they would like to invest. So this kind of partnership can allow, I mean, the diaspora to easily transfer money or to easily contribute in terms of capacity building program with schools, universities, or even hospitals, because we have so many people in the diaspora ecosystem who have very important skills and they can, go to the field in Africa, for instance, in the different sectors to help, the local communities by sharing ideas and very interesting, I mean, projects and support them whether materially or financially to put into practice these ideas. So there are so many programs that we can promote.
Thank you so much, Doctor. As you can agree with me, we have so many young people in the diaspora from the African origin that are doing wonders. So, to you, Tabitha, Rachel, Tabitha, Tabitha, are you there? Okay, I'll come back to Olivia. So, how do you think we
Back.
can?
She's back.
Tabitha, we lost you at some point. So I wanted to ask you that you know very well that we have so many young people in the diaspora from African origin that are doing a lot of wonders. So how do we privilege most of their achievements to back to their countries of origin? How do you think we can privilege young people in the diaspora what they're doing in the diaspora, and we'll privilege it to back to our countries of origin, because you realize that we have so many young people graduates excuse me, in technology, in medicine and all that, but back home we lack all these facilities. We do not have anything. We lack education, we lack good health facilities, we lack people in technology. And you realize that when you come to most of these hospitals, you find that it's our very own young people, the Black community, or might not be Black, but African community, that are giving most of these services. So how do we privilege these young people back home to see that the African continent can also gain from these young people who are in the diaspora and they're doing wonders?
Thank you so much for the wonderful question. Yeah, that's true, and we've witnessed a lot of brain drain in African countries, where the youth, after maybe completing their university or tertiary level education, they prefer to go to maybe states to look for a job, for greener pastures, and all that. And this makes creates a huge gap in African countries. Now, for us to be able, as the African leaders, to leverage on this, it's by one um, promoting. All right, let me begin by saying empowering these young people who are professionally working in these other countries, who are Africans, for them to be able to work from their African home countries. Instead of giving them opportunities in these foreign countries, we empower them to be able to work back in their countries, whether by themselves establishing self-employment, through the empowerment, or providing them with employment in the African countries, to ensure that the knowledge is still to ensure that they are inspiration, first of all, to their peers and to their fellow learned comrades in that age group. Number two, we can promote and advocate for the use of digital, like social media and digital platforms. So whether they're working from foreign countries, we can ensure that they are able to communicate through social media back to the African countries, to show the youth in their countries what they are up to and what they are doing wherever they are. This will ensure that the youth back in Africa are able to see what their fellow African youth in foreign countries are doing. And I believe this will inspire them to do more and to work more on themselves. Also, we can empower them on capacity building. When we give a chance for capacity building, the youth will be able to learn more, to learn more and to be able to expand on knowledge and their areas of specification. And this will ensure that Africa not only gets the youth who are exposed and the youth who are able to work in foreign countries, and the youth who can take back the knowledge to build Africa, because we are trying to strive for a better Africa. It will ensure that we get the best. Africa brings the best to the table globally.
So
So
on
yeah,
the,
meanwhile, I'll give you that. Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
I would like
Still
to
on
add
that,
something.
she would like to add
Yeah,
something.
yeah. I'd like to add something to what my panelists say. As I said earlier, we need to establish some diaspora engagement offices within the African government or organization that can facilitate ongoing dialogue and collaborations. Because what happens is that, as you said, we have a lot of doctors, a lot of entrepreneurs with a lot of business ideas, but most of the time, the key problem is money, investment. They don't know how to promote their ideas in the countries. And I think it's up to our local governments to establish this office that can put together programs like maybe exchange programs, mentoring, scholarship, that can, partners with those people, young people from the outside who have ideas of investment to go to the country. And I believe if they do that, not only like African descent can find interest into investing in our continent, but also others. Because I'm speaking from a concrete example, I'm from the Republic of Congo. We do have a lot of investors who they'll tell you, I didn't want to do business in Congo, but it's just through this program I came and visit, I talked to the people, and then I realized that it was possible. Because usually, oftentimes, our African countries' image isn't really the way we see it from the inside. People think, okay, if I go there, I'm going to get poor and X, Y, Z is going to happen. So if our local government establish those offices with programs that educates, not only educate, but hear from, the people from the diaspora, their ideas, and trying to build, give the solution they need, that can alleviate this problem. And I think a lot of young people are going to be encouraged to go back to the continent and invest.
Thank you so much. That's powerful. Tabitha, on the side of governments, our governments in Africa, what measures do you think can be taken to facilitate this, the reconnecting of young people in the diaspora to our continent, and they don't feel threatened that, oh, when I go to Africa and I invest my money in one of the countries, I'm going to lose my money. There's so much going on. People think people who live in Africa, we're always on the run. There is war all the time. They feel like when they go, there is suffering. They're not going to have facilities to facilitate them to do their businesses in a conducive environment. So what do you think, what measures do you think government can put in place to create security for these young people to feel like when they come and do business in African countries, they are going to, the business are going to grow, they're going to make profit, and they're going to progress, but to remove the bias of that African countries are very backward, you can't do anything about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your question. Yeah, I agree with you. There is this assumption that Africa is very chaotic in such a way that as a young person, when I get an opportunity to move out from my country and then I go to another foreign country and make money, I'm scared to go back home in assumption that they will steal from me. My fellow kingsmen would not welcome me and I'll be doomed again. But then to show that this is not the case, by the use of the government, of course, because the government, I believe, as it is in Africa, in my country, and in other African countries, that the government is the control, is the center of control for anything in any country. I believe that the government can come up with the policies, number one, policies that ensure safety to the young people who are out there trying to make things work for the best of not themselves only but the country, for the young people who are out there, African people, to fly high the flag of their own countries. So by coming up with proper policies, first of all, that provide security, not only physical security but also internet security, because there is a lot of cyberbullying and a lot of propaganda. So when the government comes up with the correct measures to ensure that the propaganda is tamed and countered for the best of information, like spreading out there the correct information, I believe our young people will be able to feel safe. Number two, the government, if only the government from any African country for this matter, if they could ensure they provide opportunities for these people back to their home country, will make these people feel safe again. Because the question here or the concern is the safety and how the government can ensure they feel safe. So if the government can provide employment, if someone left their country to go to a foreign country to do something like medicine or surgeon, let the government provide employment opportunity for those young people back in their roots, back in their country, because we're trying to strive build Africa by being an African, for the Africa to be at the center in the global success of this of the world. I mean, so if the government could also provide job opportunities for these qualified young people back at home, it would make them feel safer. Also, by creating awareness and giving platforms for the qualified people, people with experience, people who have been there before, to get a platform to talk to the young people. And by talking with these young people, they will not focus on the people back in their African countries only. They will create a platform where the people who are not in the African country can connect virtually with the people, the young people who are in foreign countries, to be able to interact freely. I believe when they are those ones in foreign countries and those ones in African countries, like we are doing right now, the online interaction facilitates a safer feeling, a sense of belonging, and all that. So with the drill,
Thank, thank you so much, Miss Raquel, because we are already running behind time. I'll be taking on the next section from here. But before then, we have another influential person and another leader. I'm a very big fan of her. Her name is Miss Abdullah. She's from Mandara. It's the northern part of Kenya, and her organization is doing excellently well. So I want to introduce Miss Abdullah. Assalamu alaikum and welcome. Please just give us your opening salutation while I ask this question. Your encounter in the northern part of Kenya with respect to your projects that you need to do, how are you leveraging with those in diaspora, knowing fully well that the diaspora community are those community of people that have left the continent to empower themselves. They have the well without and the means, to plow back. And many of them, sincerely, from what our speakers are saying, are genuinely willing to help back because of our cultural antecedents of building a community. The challenge now is government creating the enabling environment, or people like you who are non-profit. What are you doing to attract them to join? As she prepares to answer that question, the next question is for Doc. So, Dr. Isaka, you've heard what Ms. Raquel has said. You've heard what Olivier has said. The question now for you, as someone who is a project manager, someone who is on ground, you're already a permanent representative in Geneva for our collective interest. What do you see is the problem why investors do not, even without thinking, want to jump into the continent? And how can we help Africans in diaspora? How can we help them say, here are sectors you need to do, here are sectors that need help, here are sectors that can advance the sustainable development goal that you share? What, in your own view, do you see that we don't see as outsiders in it? Thank you. Over to you as Ms. Abdullah prepares after you've done. Hello, Doctor.
Well, yeah, Daniel, is the question asked to me?
Yes, sir. From your
Okay.
own experience as an as a mobilizer, a local mobilizer, and from your own experience representing, you are the permanent representative in Geneva for your own organization. What do you think is the struggle? Why are people so reluctant? And why is it difficult for those in diaspora and also multinational organizations to join and strengthen your work in ensuring we accelerate development goal?
Well, according to me, this is quite interesting because I've been jumping from country to country for almost 10 years. So I think sometimes I ask myself this question: where do I spend more time, in Africa or outside? But there is, I think we don't need, to treat the diaspora differently. First of all, let's be honest with that, because if we spend our time treating differently the diaspora, we will not, come across the sustainable solution. So, peace, security are two pillar of development that we should promote in Africa, and we should not invest more in treating the diaspora when they are home back in Africa, for instance, but we should invest more in terms of fighting bad governance in Africa, promoting sustainable strategies to promote sustainable development in Africa. Uh, Program like tourism, I personally appreciate. The safari program that is start from Kenya to Uganda, Tanzania, that show the parts of Africa that we never see on social media or on TV somewhere else. So we need to multiply some kind of program that will attract diaspora people to go back to Africa by themselves to see how the continent is, what they can do, and then they can start now to invest in different sectors. But education, economy, employment, these are the most important things we need to invest more in Africa. We all have younger brothers that would like to have access to education. We have some villages where people have never seen what we call computers or or phone. It's like we don't live in the same planet, so we need to break this barrier. Diaspora can play, very important role in this commitment. We should mobilize ourselves. Diaspora, sometimes they live in a country where people they even don't meet a whole year. Is not helpful. First of all, let's let them, reconnect themselves where they are. First of all, to gather their efforts together to bring what they can do to contribute to the development of the
Thank,
continent.
thank you, thank you so much, Dr. Isiaka. And I want our viewers to understand what Dr. Isiaka is saying. He's saying that our strategy in moving forward is that the diaspora people have, to some extent, socio-economic power. In short, whatever they have and they are doing is obviously slightly better than what we have back home. So it will be key for us to leverage on their remittance, better organize the way they remit this money so that it directly attracts or needed investment and is directly tailored towards either education, empowering their family members. There should be a better way that governments and all stakeholders can be able to help diasporans who are willing to fund, better preserve their stuff. Salam alaikum, Miss Abdullahi. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm a very strong fan of your work. I've been following your work for the last 1 year, so it's a privilege to have you here. Now, the question is, how do I, as someone based in the US, how do I support your mentoring and empowering initiative in northern Kenya? And why is it important that I help the Mosque Foundation, you understand, succeed on ground? Over to you.
Thank you so much for this great opportunity, and I honestly feel honored to be here today, and so many people joining me across the world. And on to the question you just asked. So, Miski Foundation, um, when you focus on the kind of work I do on the grassroots, and how I have been working closely with the youth, it's been, I understand, it's been inspiring. And for instance, every year I school at Australia. I study law at Deakin University. So every year I find time, an opportunity as well, to partner with other friends or organizations to come back home and inspire young girls. And it's been something that is like consistent all the time. And for instance, last year when I went back to Kenya, I visited roughly 10 schools where we were donating sanitary towels for the young girls. And I have actually sat with the student leaders in every school. We created WhatsApp groups where we were forming clubs in the school. For instance, we formed journalism club, we formed environment club, anything that was surrounding the SDGs, the goals of United Nations. And if I would say, why will someone support this kind of foundation is, what I have been doing is really tangible. It's something that you can see. If you go back to schools and ask about Miski Foundation and what I've been doing, consistently going back home and sharing my experience, any resource I get out there and coming back, it's been something that is, progressive, something that you can see in my social media. And I can attest today, if you go back to one of the schools and randomly ask about Miski Foundation, and maybe you interview them about the kind of progress I've been doing since my book launch, Reset, which was launched in 2019. That is when I actually joined social media. That is when I started community work, mentorship. And I feel sometimes I'm really connected with the youth in my region, northern Kenya, because I am from northern Kenya. I was raised there. And in particular, where I come from, it's called Ramo. It's a small town that is part of Mandera North. And it's been having a problem with, tribal clashes. And I feel what the young girls and boys are feeling today. As we speak now, these tribal clashes between two tribes, which is very unfortunate. 8 years ago, it was the same. And every time I just go back, and sometimes as a human, you feel exhausted and you just want to give up and, so many things. But to my shock, at times, I can say it's so fortunate that when I want to look, maybe, deactivate my social media or quit my social media, I receive inspiring messages from the young girls and boys from these specific schools saying that they got inspiration from me, and they feel like they are connected to me, and they keep on inviting me. The school principals in every school, they always try to find me wherever I'm back in Kenya. They would like to have me in the school so that I can inspire the young girls. So I can say it's something tangible that I have done with my team, Miskinul Foundation, that today is reasonable and can be seen, and it's so inspiring in the community.
Thank
And
you.
that's
Thank
why
you
I
so
would
much.
say.
Yes, thank you so much, Miss Abdullahi. I am a witness to that already. I'm aware that the president of Djibouti some few years ago even spoke to you personally to thank you, because in the region almost everybody shares almost the same view and the same religion and are almost related one way or the other, from the Central African Republic to the Horn of Africa to even some part of the southern part. Why I appreciate what you're doing is you're coming from the diaspora, you are being exposed to sound knowledge and understanding of why people need to be better angels of themselves. People need to respect people's views and cultural antecedents. You are bringing it back home, to tell women, the people that actually get the change done, the people that are the first in line to be affected, that see, you have to train your kids well, you have to train your young boys well, you have to empower your girl child well. That's the vision. So for those of our friends online, Tete from Ghana, Abdullah Khan, who is saying thank you so much, Abdullah, for what you do. And Mrs. Bangushe from Nigeria. Thank you for all the positive comments you're making on the social media platform. And thank you for also reinforcing why we should fund and support people like Abdullah, Miss Abdullah, on what she's doing in empowering and emancipating people like her that share common value, to respect other cultures, other religions outside, because it's only when we do that we achieve sustainable development goal. As we start to round up, what will be your final closing remark? I want to start with Miss Abdullah. You have just a minute so that we can have questions and answer from the audience back home or contribution. What will you, as a change maker yourself, as one of the 100 most influential people 2 years ago in Kenya, what will you say is your parting gift or your message to your brothers in diaspora, to those back home, with respect to accelerating growth and ensuring that our cultural preservation and our position in the Committee of Nations is seen as Africans who wants to be blessing? What is your own final closing remark?
Thank you so much. I will say my final remark is the youth who are in Africa are very hardworking and resilient youth who know what exactly they're doing because of the kind of struggles and environment they've been living for most of their life and their lifestyle as well. So every time we see an African youth, please show supporting hand. And if you see them doing great work, whether it's mentorship or giving back to the society, we always need a shoulder to lean on and someone to believe in us. That is all I would say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. Dr. Isiaka, what's your own final closing remark to your brothers, both in the continent and outside of the continent, and of course, your global partners across the UN system?
Well, I think we, as young ambassadors, can also play that role. We can facilitate the reintegration or the coming back of diaspora in the African continent. Uh, When we travel to international forums, for instance, we see how the diaspora is. What are their attempt and what we can do to prepare the ground to welcome them. For instance, in Chad, we have the Chad Youth Internet Governance Forum that I founded when the main goal was, to invite any, diaspora member who come back to Chad to come and talk to, the community about their experience, and it's very, helpful. We can also, advocate that the government can also facilitate the administrative procedures to facilitate their, coming back. And we also have to let the diaspora know that they are also they do have a dual citizenship, that they should also promote the second one, which is the first one in Africa. I think it's very I mean uh, sure it responsibilities.
Thank you so much for crystallizing that view that there's a role for everyone, whether you are within Africa or whether you are outside of Africa. Those roles are all there and glaring for us to see, either in the educational sector, the humanitarian sector, the health sector, or governance in general. What is key, like you've said, is for everybody to come together and realize that Africa will never develop if Africans themselves are not the foundation. To our leader, Miss Tabitha, you've heard what your colleagues have said in the region. And I know you are doing a wonderful job right from the time you were 15 years old. You've always been mobilizing, even helping your father to get elected. Now, how do you think we in diaspora can work with people like you so that the needed change can work on ground, and then use that to give your closing remark on the vision that you want the diasporans, the government, and of course your colleagues within the continent to shift as we move towards the end of the century? Thank you. Sorry, your mic. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you so much. My parting shot is for us to achieve the vision that we have as the youth, let's say diaspora and from Africa. I'd first begin by reminding all of us that charity begins at home. No matter how far you fly, remember that home is the best. Africa is the home of opportunities. Africa is home of rich culture that we could use to build us economically. Africa is the home of great, brilliant minds. So as this generation, because I believe every generation they have their own mandate. Let's not fail our generation by running away from the privilege that we have now to change Africa and to make it better. As brief as that, let's do the best and stick to our roles as the youth, both diaspora and in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much for crystallizing a very important thing every African here knows. All our parents always tells us that charity begins at home. For her, what she means is if you want to create progress for Africa, you have to start within. That anytime you go anywhere outside of the continent, you carry a bit of Africa with you. So, but always remember to plow it back to motherland so that our collective interests will move forward. Olivia, over to you. So, what will be your parting gift and your wisdom? You know, being one of our leaders here in the United States in the African Young Professional Coalition Group, what is your vision, or what would you advise that we do? Then we hand over to Miss Tabe to give her reflection. Then we answer one or two questions I have here online. Over to you, Olivia.
Well, thank you so much. So what I would like to share with my people watching us online or in person is that failure is everywhere. So if we leave the fear of failing, not having adequate instrument and opportunities back home, holding us back from investing, we will never be able to achieve whatever vision of success we have for a continent. There is a lot of potential, a lot of high achieving young people in Africa, a lot of young achieving people in outside of the continent as well. What we all need to do is put our hands together, talk about the matter. Let's see what's not working and how we can work about it. Let's have plan B's, plan C's that can back us up in if what we have firsthand didn't work out. Also, let's not wait until our government provides policies that tells us, okay, now you're safe, you can come back home. I think that's something that can happen maybe in the future. Thank God if it happens right now, but we need to work on what we have. Let's educate yourself, know what you're doing, go back home and invest. If you failed, it's okay, because some of us have tried outside of the African continent and failed too, which means that the power to succeed doesn't only come from the place, the nature, or the instrument you have. Once you have the knowledge of what you're doing and you are surrounding yourself with a lot of young people achieving, those who are seeing your vision and speaking your mind, you'll probably be able to step back out even though you fail. So let's not let that fear stop.
Thank you so much for that submission, that it is key that the people that surround you and the knowledge that you need to get to address some of the issues back home are very key. However, working together will make that happen. To the Pan-African Vice President for the Eastern region, what's your own parting gift so that I give the concluding notes and then we usher in the next session? What's your parting gift for your brothers within the continent and of course the international community to hear?
Mine is to welcome you home, to come back and do something. That Africa is full of it's rich. We have a very rich climate. We have a very rich. We have a lot of minerals that we some of them are not even being discovered. Some of them are just being discovered today, or every day we discover something. When you realize that most of the things that are used to make gadgets, you guns, computers, they all come from Africa. So why do we have to say that we have failed when we have the resources that everyone around the world is running to? We have oil, we have lithium, we have uranium, we have cobalt, we have gold, we have everything we need. So it's just a mindset. Can we just work on our mindset? We change our attitude towards Africa, and then we come back home and we make wonders because we have everything we need. We have the brain, we have the brains here. People have acquired knowledge here. Let them come home and we establish a system where we can ourselves develop our own continent. No one is going to come from here to come and develop us because they don't care. They don't care. They only care. They only want. They only want what we have. So they will, again, we sell it at a very cheaper price, and then they bring it here. We buy it expensively. It's like coffee. We have too much coffee on the continent. You find yourself that a kilogram of coffee costs, I think, $1, but here a cup of coffee costs how much? A lot, maybe let's say $10. I don't know how much it costs.
Some places.
Yes, so if and it's just one spoon in that cup that you're having. So yet for us out there, we sell it cheaply. So I want to implore our young people here, please. Let's put our hands together. We go back home. We invest. We make Africa the best continent everyone would have.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you so much. First, I want to thank IYC. I want to thank the AFS group. I want to thank Sharab, Priyanka, and all those for helping to push the ideas that we share here. On the social media, I also want to acknowledge that Miss Abdullah, your brother from, I think it's Taraba State in Nigeria, says, I'm Abdul Rasak Daba. Thank you so much, my sister, for what you're doing. We need more people like you to get it done. Then Abdul Jabbar from Chad says, thank you so much, Sister Abdullah, and to all the speakers. I really appreciate your wisdom. We're all proud of you. And then, okay, I think it's Daba again saying, my sister, I'm so proud of you. I'm in Nigeria. I'm willing to work with you. On our parting gift as Africans here, I would like to read some of the submissions that are here. Overall, in reconnecting the diaspora community into developing sustainable development goal. Our panelists here have been able to recognize that there's a leverage and there's a talent, skill, potential that this diaspora community have. And it is that skills and mindset that we require to develop our country back home. If we must do that, then government must start to create platforms and enabling environments for some of the expertise skills to come back. Looking at our remittance, they should find smarter ways in which to make these fundings more targeted to development goals. Encourage non-profit organizations like those that Ms. Abdullah and organizations like Pan-African Youth Movement they do. And also encourage those diasporans back in their continent, host continent, and back home to organize cultural events that can bring everyone together. And then look for targeted sectors where Africa as a whole has fallen short of, namely the educational sector, the health sector, business in itself, production and manufacturing and supply chain, as Ms. Metusi has said. But in all, that young people are the agents of change and should also ensure that they are part of the process of ensuring that their governments are held accountable, and also international communities know that there is a conducive environment for development. I want to thank again the UNDGC. I want to thank all our partners. It has been a wonderful UN General Assembly week. I want to thank Ms. Rachel Tabita. I want to thank Dr. Isiaka. I want to thank all our viewers back home and those online. All we are here to tell you is that the African young people you see here, we do not want to do the mistakes of our fathers. We know what it's required to move forward. We want to rewrite history, and we want to do it in a nice way, both on the continent and outside of the continent. And on that note, I want to tell you all bye bye and God bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Daniel.